Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm so excited to be here today for another interview of Feeling at Home in Your Body. I have Mady Rose McDonough with me today, who I have to say, Mady Rose was my first artist friend. Like I never met like a real artist. And that's exactly what Mady is. She is an artist, an illustrator, and she teaches online classes to women who want to bring out their inner artist in terms of painting, which I should probably just do because I hate painting.
Yeah.
I just get it done. And she also recently illustrated a book. Tell me about the book just quickly.
Yeah, the kids' book I illustrated is illustrating E. Cummings, one of my most favorite poems. I carry your heart in my heart.
Mm.
And it's usually a love poem, but this one is between a parent and a child. And it shows from pregnancy to like the little child going off to school. It was such an honor to work on.
That is the coolest.
It's cool.
That is super cool. So,
Dream come true.
oh, isn't that the best? I like dreams that come true. So, today we are diving into the topics that I love to dive into, which is the body and how we think about her, how we experience her, how we may have separated ourselves from her at different times, and how we can come back to her and feel connected to her in a way that is from an internal source versus an external source. And when I say external, I mean, whether it's losing weight or a diet or being complimented by someone, or, any number of different gauges that we have that are outside of us that make us feel good about our bodies.
Yeah.
So I have this thing. I really do believe that every woman, usually like preteen or maybe even younger, at some point realized that like her body was not okay.
Right.
Did you have a moment like that?
I did, and I think I was one of the tallest girls in my class, or tallest kids, because the girls are usually tallest in fifth and sixth grade. And I remember shrinking to become smaller, my shoulders, but then like looking back in pictures, even I would bend my knees to try to align myself with everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I think that was my first awareness, like, I am not okay. I'm too tall, and I need to conform so I don't stand out too much.
And you can't really control your height.
Mm-mm.
Like there's nowhere you can go with that. You're just like, oh my
No,
goodness. So how did that? I'm sorry. Did you tell me what grade that was? Yeah, you said like fifth or sixth grade.
probably
So
fifth,
yeah,
sixth, yeah,
and fifth and sixth grade, I feel like are such a delicate time for young girls, and
absolutely.
we're so just tender and raw, and it's like our first charge of like emotions, and then there's boys, and it's like the whole thing. So,
Oof. And then you're bigger than the boys, or I was.
yeah, well, I wasn't, but I thought I was.
Yeah.
Um, I've always thought that I was the tallest. I'm like 5'3" on a good day. So how did that kind of meld into how you thought about your body then moving into, junior high, high school, college?
I know, it's fascinating. I've never been asked this question before. But just as you were talking, I was thinking about, right, that was like the first time I thought to conform and be smaller and, like less than I really was.
Yes.
I was given the message somehow, right, that was not okay, or I didn't want to draw attention to myself.
So what did that look like? What did like being smaller? Because you couldn't physically become smaller, but right. But how did that kind of show itself in your actions or in your
Yeah.
language?
I How did I mean, besides shrinking from photos, I mean, soon after I started getting curves, and I remember Guess jeans were really big, and,
Yeah.
I had like one pair, and I would squeeze myself into them, but then, they were way too tight, and I remember thinking my butt was too big, my thighs were too big, and it was sort of a continual being too big.
Yes.
Felt like a theme.
Yeah. And, I feel like this is a theme many of us have. I didn't have the I was too big physically. I was too big, like my mouth. I have a huge
Right.
mouth. This thing is like you can't control it.
Oh, yeah, I had the big teeth too. I mean, right. We're like growing into ourselves.
I know, and like I remember at the time, at the exact age that you're describing, I had braces. And one of my favorite things to do is like smile, but like to have like a giant mouth with giant braces, and I wore glasses. Like babies would just cry. It was just, it was just like small children would run screaming because I'd be like, "Hi," just like, and
But it didn't seem like you were shrinking.
well, after that I did. I was like,
Oh, okay.
"Oh, we need to just tone that down because you're making other humans weep. This is not good." Um, so moving into then that space of like my butt is too big, my thighs are too
Right.
big. Like, did you ever diet
When I was little,
or younger? High
or
school.
young like that,
Yeah.
like, well, and I never talked about this, but I did go through a period. This is so interesting in fifth grade, where I had a teacher who would tell these horrific stories about kids, like just running and then all of a sudden having a heart attack, or a kid. I remember this is what I obsessed about, choked. And so I went through like a month or two period where I would chew my food really slowly, and my parents like suddenly were worried about me. But I wonder how much, in retrospect, how much that had to do with me getting bigger, right? I never had actually, I thought it was more hypochondriacal, like, oh my goodness, I'm going to choke.
Right.
And it was sort of like this existential like realization of like, I could die. I'm a living person and I need to control this. But I think that when I've never had an eating disorder per se, but I think that's very similar to, that same frame of mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and also this idea of I'm not infallible.
Right.
Life can be taken away. And
Yeah.
so what can I do to kind of control my environment?
Mm-hmm.
And it kind of played out in your chewing. How interesting. Are you still a
poor little girl, right?
I know. Our little wounded inner children. It's hard.
I've absolutely dieted and tracked my food, and I think, as an adult, for me there have been so many conflicting diets. I think for everyone.
Yes.
Like,
tell me. This is another favorite topic. So tell me, like, which of the diets that just like were completely conflicting, and you just or conflicted between the two and didn't know what to do.
Yeah. Oh, I'm like currently I still get sort of tantalized by them, but it's like, right now I'm working with a naturopath, and she says, to eat meat,
right,
all meat, and so it's like, okay. And then I have friends who are vegan.
Right.
And then I have, where I'm like, wow, they look great. Like, they seem so healthy, like there are all these, and then there's like the low fat model, and then there's the all carbs model, South Beach. And then, my boyfriend's vegetarian right now, and then my ex was gluten-free, and it's just like,
yes.
So it's mostly, I think that I come across it with people that I spend time with, where I'm like, okay, what should I eat?
And so in that, how do you come to each meal? Like, how do you then show up to each meal if you're kind of wondering what you should be eating?
It's a great question. Yeah, I think that's something I struggle with, especially, if I'm eating alone, I do try to eat intuitively and think about what I'm hungry for, and even that's like a kind of eating, right?
It is. It's its own methodology. Absolutely.
Right. Exactly. So, like today it's raining, and I'm like, yeah, I had some tomato soup for lunch. It just felt like that would feel really good. But I'm also not like a really good planner, so I like just get hungry and I'm like, okay, whatever's there, you know?
Okay. I actually want to, this is very cool. I kind of want
Yeah.
to go down this road with you because I have this feeling when it comes to people and planning their food that everyone talks about taking care of yourself, right? Like eating
Mm-hmm.
well is a form of self-care.
Mm-hmm.
And like I see planning meals or having things that you enjoy as a methodology of self-care.
Yes.
So, what do you think in the past or even now kind of keeps you from that level of self-care?
Hmm. I never saw it like that. Um, that's a really good question. What keeps me from that self-care? And I mean, when I think about, yeah, there's like it's definitely tied into financial security too.
Oh
You
my
know,
God,
like,
this is the best
ah,
interview ever. Yes,
like
keep going.
being an artist and self-employed and having a fluctuating income. I think that so much of my, like when I get a paycheck or, you know, I get paid for a job, I'm like, woohoo, Whole Foods, let's go. Let's eat the delicious things.
Yeah.
And then when I'm feeling poor, I'm like looking at my canned food and lentils yeah, there is a correlation that I would like to pick apart. I don't have the answers on that, but I definitely notice that there's a scarcity mentality connected to what I'm eating when I don't have money. Or if I'm overeating, like someone invites me over for dinner, I'm like, oh, I better store up.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mady, that is such an incredible connection, and I'm sure other women who are watching this have had a very, very similar experience. I mean, I've had similar experiences, not from a money place, though I do tend to approach my money the way I approach my food, which is like just grip it. Like I have a really hard time spending money because I'm like, I don't know if I'm gonna get more. Whereas like I always do. But it's
That's fascinating.
right. And like some people have the exact opposite. Where I've seen with my clients is they, you know, they just eat and eat and eat and they spend and spend and spend because the flow goes out versus like gripping or grasping. But where I've had a similar experience as you is like during the holidays. Like when my mom makes certain foods that I never eat, I'm like, oh, I have to store up now because I'm not getting this for another year. And it's like total scarcity mentality where it's like I could just ask her for the recipe and make the dish myself and have it all year round if I want. Mm-hmm. So isn't that incredible what we do with food, this idea of like storing up or stocking up now because maybe there isn't more coming our way. Right.
And it would seem to be biological too, that you would, you know, like a hamster, you would store it up.
Exactly. Yeah. But the storage, you would hope you'd stop when the hunger had been satiated.
Yes.
And what continues the eating is not the physical body, but the emotional one, right?
Yes. Yeah. That is big stuff. So, right. Yeah. You know that I love and live next door to Rachel Cole, your friend too. But I have her mantra, like, what am I truly hungry for? Oh, yeah. Maybe it is a nap. Maybe it's not eating right now. Or maybe it really is chocolate right now.
Well, and it's so interesting that you said that because that is really the point. It's not that one is good or bad. It's just, what do I really want here? Mm-hmm. And like, if the answer is no, there's nothing on this earth that's going to satisfy me except for ice cream, then do it. Mm-hmm. You know, but you do it in a way where I still consider ice cream to be self-care. If that's really the nourishment that you're requiring.
Right.
This is so interesting. So, as I said in the beginning, you are like my first artist friend, mm-hmm. and you make me feel so cool. And so I want to know, because I now consider myself to be an artist, obviously not in the traditional sense and the way that you are, but in like the fact that I write all the time and I create programs and I create, you know, new experiences for clients. Like, I'm an artist in my own way.
You are. I mean, yeah, all of those things.
But
or
I'd never
creative.
considered myself one. And I always wanted to know, like, how do you feel or how do you think your body and how you engage with your body is connected to your art?
Hmm. I think I think it's all connected. Um, I find that when I'm really in the creative flow, I am moving a lot, like in between paintings or standing up to look at the painting. Um, and so, yeah, I feel like very in my body, and I feel at home when I have that creative flow happening. And when I feel stuck creatively, I also feel that in my body. So I do think that um, my hands, my head, my heart, my body, like are all needed in the creative process. It's not like I can just operate out of my ideas.
And when you feel like you are in the creative flow, do you
Hmm.
feel more trusting of your body?
Hmm. Yeah, there's more spaciousness when I'm in that creative flow, and there's openness and expansiveness and ideas percolating, like versus when I think because I am an illustrator too and I have deadlines, it's has to be sometimes very conscious for me to be like, okay, like I can't just sit at this table and like push it through, because that's going to make really sort of dead work. It's not going to be very interesting or compelling or beautiful. And so
Yeah.
I do have to stay connected to that flow, which means like moving my body. And it means like taking a break and going to take a yoga class or taking a walk and refueling. Like I think that's probably true for a lot of artists, that it's really hard just to it's not conducive to creating if you're just sitting there.
I oh God. I so love you for saying that because so many of my clients and the women who I work with are, I call them handlers. They just handle shit. They get shit
Yeah.
done. They bust it out. They hit deadlines, and they're always in this perpetual state of moving and pushing forward, driving, striving, because that's how they know that they're okay.
Right.
And I
Right.
talk,
That you can check the box, right?
yes, exactly. Like, great, I've worked out today. Okay, I've eaten my kale. Okay, great, I picked up the kids on time and I got that deadline done. And yet,
Right.
at the end of the day, there's like a tightness and a
Mm-hmm.
tension, and then they end up eating dinner the way they ran through their day, like a rabid squirrel.
Right.
Um, and one of the things that I have been talking to people about a lot, which is something that you just said, is letting yourself take a break.
Yeah.
Like listening to the body and having some expanding out. And I'm sure when you do that, do you feel like your creativity comes back naturally?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. 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 Um, yeah. I'm still learning, and something I'm trying to do lately that just reminded me of that is really trying to eat and not have any distractions. No
Mm.
computer, no TV, no book, no radio even, just to be like with my meal. It's only about 15 minutes, half an hour. It's not that long.
I mean, if you have a meal that lasts a half an hour, I praise you because
Yeah, right.
I
No,
will
it
tell
has to
you.
be half an hour.
I mean, I teach this for a living, and I'm like, Jamie, if you can make it to 15 minutes, you are a goddess. Like, if you can make this
I
meal last longer than 5 minutes, you're amazing. Because because there we want to create sacred space around our food, but there's almost like an uncomfortability there.
It's super uncomfortable.
What is your experience? Because you I know that you have a boyfriend, but you live alone, so you've
Yeah,
had plenty of meals alone.
yeah.
What's the
I literally started this like a week ago because I was just realizing how I was always distracting myself, especially. I'm sorry, what was your question?
no,
Living
continue.
alone.
No,
Yeah.
continue.
Yeah, I was just realizing that I was always distracting myself, and I wanted to become conscious. And so now I sit at my table, and there's a park that I look out on, and there are often like baseball games or people walking by that
Yeah.
I do watch. But it's like, even this morning, like eating my yogurt and fruit, I was like, I realized actually that I had given myself way too much. Like I just wasn't, I put half of it away. I was like, this is not satisfying me, or I'm satisfied rather. I don't need more. And I think normally if I was checking my email, I would have just eaten all of it, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, the distracted eating is it's a thing. But being single and sitting and having a meal by yourself is also a thing. It's like
It is.
does it count if I check Instagram while I'm eating? Like that's not real TV. Like does that count? Cuz like I don't think it counts. Totally counts. So what have you found to be like the uncomfortable piece of
Right.
sitting with yourself and sharing a meal just with you?
Right. What is that? I mean, I think it's like what you're saying. It's like realizing like I'm alone, I'm single. No, I have a boyfriend, but like just that sort of.
Well, I don't, and I will tell you that it's a thing.
Yeah. It's so there's that. There's like, okay, my life maybe isn't exactly where I want it, or like you have all those voices, but then maybe it's back to that like 11-year-old girl. It's like it's just who's like chewing and just thinking of like it's. I don't know. There's a sense of uncomfortableness, and I don't know what that is actually.
Yeah.
But I would like it to feel like just really, like I want to be really hungry and have it feel like nourishing and joyful.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have so much wrapped up in our meals. There's so much emotion wrapped up in our meals that it's one of the reasons why we like to just move through them.
Right.
But one of the things that you said, which I think is so important, is that when we do take the time to actually be with the meal, we often find that we don't need or we don't actually want as much as we've served ourselves.
Mm-mm.
Like I've actually had this experience too of sitting down to a plate of food that I've created and look down and be like, this is a lot of food. Like, do I want all of this? Like, and then, I eat and I see how I go. But if I had been Instagramming or tweeting or whatever, I would have lost that moment.
Yeah.
And I think the idea of having sacred space around our food and why it's uncomfortable, and tell me if this resonates with you, is that it's almost like it opens up the floodgate of our mind.
Mm-hmm.
So it just allows all of those thoughts about our body or our life situation or why am I eating alone to come in, and we just to sit with all of that without attaching our ego to it is a lot.
It is a lot.
It's a lot. And what's cool though is that I think in practicing this, you're realizing that you have the capacity to sit with it.
Right. Yeah. And I'll be interested. I think that's the thing that I'm trying to cultivate is this mindfulness. And I think for me, it's really easy, like to feel disconnected from my body, like it's really easy. Like, I think I have the opposite problem sometimes where I think I look great, blah, blah, blah. Like, I think like, oh, I look so, like when I look at my body, I'm like, I look great. I feel so good. I look thin. And then I'll see a photo of myself or go to the doctors and be like, oh, wow, I weigh like 10 pounds more than I thought I did. So there's like, I don't know if there's a term for that, but I think that I think sometimes, I don't know what I'm trying to say exactly, but.
Well, I think I do.
Yeah.
Well, because I talk to people a lot about this too. It's like focusing more on how we feel than how we look.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's actually kind of a superpower. Like if you really are feeling so good in your body, if you are feeling strong, if you're feeling energized, if you're feeling like you look beautiful, then that's the only thing that matters. I believe.
It's true.
I really believe. I mean, 10 pounds here or there, that's not That's not coronary heart disease. That's not going to be a problem.
Right.
And it is interesting how we use numbers to tell us that either we're not okay or thank God we're okay. Because I can't tell you how many clients I've had that, like, the scale says what it's supposed to say, but they don't feel good.
Yeah.
They don't feel good in their bodies.
Exactly.
So I would say you're actually halfway there because you already feel great. So now it's just more like getting in touch.
Like, whoa! But I think it is maybe having an awareness of, like, oh, I did gain 10 pounds, instead of just, like, realizing it at the doctor's. So I think there is something, for me personally, to have more consciousness around.
Right, and this goes back to what you said about kind of being, even though you feel good, there is a bit of a disconnect with your body around what you're ingesting and how she's processing it and all of that. Okay, well, I have one more question for you.
Yeah.
And this goes back to what you were talking about, being tall.
Mm-hmm.
What is it like dating when because now you're an adult woman and you're dating. What is it like dating being in your body? How do you kind of hold those two?
Right, especially online dating.
Oh, holy cow.
I don't know if you've done, but...
Not yet. I'm just not ready.
Because in online dating, it asks you to sort of classify your body as curvy, skinny, all of those things, and your height. And then I just think that's so interesting, too, going back to the tall thing, like, men always exaggerate how tall they are, and then dating, exactly, I have a lot of shoes, like the ones I'm wearing right now, that have, big heel, and it goes back to that feeling of, like, oh, I feel too tall or too big sometimes. I think it's been an awesome experiment to be dating and to realize there are all sorts of different people out there and body types, and when I can have more playfulness with it, I feel like it's a positive thing. But so I've been dating Justin, my boyfriend, for, I guess it's been like 8 or 9 months. And prior to dating him, I went to a yoga retreat called Love Your Body with this great yoga teacher, Kimber Simpkins. And I just found it so interesting that, like, right after that retreat, I was feeling like I was loving my body, and then I met him, and it was like, he is someone who, like, really loves my body and my curves, and I think that's no mistake, like, I was, like, felt very comfortable in my body in a new way. So I think, when you have come home to your body, and I don't feel like I'm fully there, but I'm, it's an evolving process, I think that you attract more of that, someone who really, prior to that, I think I was dating people who wanted me to be, like, thinner, or have a different kind of body type. That
is so awesome. We're going to end it right there, because that's, like, genius. That is gold. Because you're so right. I was just having this conversation with a client, and she's married, and she's like, I just want to lose some weight. Mm-hmm. And she's, like, maybe size, like, 10. And I said, well, so what are your husband's thoughts on it? And she goes, he's insane. He looks at me like I'm a size 6. He thinks I look amazing. And I was like, wait a second. There is so much wrapped up in that. One, that you think only a size 6 is beautiful.
Right.
2, that you don't trust your husband of 30 years to have good taste.
Wow. Yeah.
Like, your man wants your body as she is showing up right now.
Right.
So what is it? What's underneath that you can't let that be beautiful and be good enough in that moment?
Right.
And I think it's exactly what you're describing, that when you begin to inhabit your body in that way of, you've released the expectations. She's not perfect. She just is right now what she is.
Right.
You bring in someone who's like, yeah, I dig all of that.
Yeah.
Right now. Yeah, it's kind of cool.
Good stuff.
So good. Oh my God. Mady, thank you so much for sharing. I think you're incredible. I think your art is incredible. It's so beautiful and colorful and whimsical and magical.
Thank you.
There's a
Thank
lot
you,
of
Jamie.
magic.
I think you're incredible.
Yeah, well, and
I love your enthusiasm.
I know, I get excited.
Yay.
Well, if anyone wants to look at your work, they can go to madyrose.com, right?
Yeah.
So
MATI.
MATIROSE.com. And thank you so much for being here.
You're so welcome. Thank you.
All right, I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, everyone.